a couple of years ago now, I debuted with my first ever novel, Home to the Wild, the first in the Into the Wild series, with the following year having Way of the Wild come out. Now this was a whole series all about found family, love between a young girl and another who met as children and fall in love even more so as adults. But the central focus was a wolf pack and the dynamic of wolves, and in the second book also having a whole thing about the protection of wolves in the environment. And I have been obsessed with wolves since I was a kid. Obviously being diagnosed as autistic in my adult life, it kind of makes sense now that I was so hyperfixated on it. But I loved this series. I was so glad this was my debut series and just my debut stories in general. But I've not been back to the series in a while. But I'm going back to it now. And for research, I'm going to meet wolves. Yeah, new things are coming to the Into the Wild series, and this was basically a complete and utter justification for being able to do this, as well as the most incredible birthday present from my amazing girlfriend. I still can't believe that this is what she got me for my 30th birthday. But by the time this video comes out, it will have all happened. But the reason why I'm releasing it later is because by the time this video goes out of the Wild will be out in the world. Now this is the collection of all the short stories set before, during the middle and after the Into the Wild books, all in one collection, so you can get all three and just add it to your Into the Wild collection. So it's out 4th of February, which is probably already out by now. And yeah, so that's why I'm releasing it now, as well as the fact that I will be using Meeting the Wolves as part of research for a brand new exciting project related to Into the Wild that I still can't tell you about right now. But meeting these wolves is going to be part of a very exciting writing adventure for me. I'll be taking my notebook, I will be taking my books in general, mainly just because promotions, and just kind of seeing wolves up close. I don't know if it's like face to face or if it's like on the other side of like the fence or anything like that. I don't know anything about it, which is both exciting and nerve-wracking. But I just want to see how they interact. Like, I know it's different because it's not in the wild, but I'm just fascinated to see what it'll be like and what inspiration I can gain from it for this secret novella project for the Into the Wild series. So yeah, come with me on this very exciting journey. I don't even know if it'll be exciting for you guys, but I'm just so excited and I thought I would just share it anyway. As I go and meet a wolf pack in Kent. So we are on the way to the Wildwood Trust. I'm obviously with my partner. It's about like a 2-hour drive and we're on our last 1 hour. And we're just listening to music on the way there, but I am slowly getting more and more excited, but also more and more nervous. We're going to be there way before like it starts, so we're just going to wander about afterwards, but enjoy random visuals on the way before we get to the wolves. It's very cold. We are here and we're very early, so I think we can be let in, but the wolf thing isn't happening for a while, but I'm very excited. I can't turn my camera around, but I'm going to show you the map. Here is the map. Here's where I'm going. Also have Arctic horse. I don't know what a conic horse is, but that is also my other special interest, so I'm also intrigued and excited because we can go and look at the whole zoo after and before the wolf thing, so I'm very excited about all of this. Yay! Yeah, we were an hour early, so we just did a wander around. First up was the Raven, and seeing how they are closely connected to wolves, it felt like fate to see them first. It was super exciting. They were very loud, mainly because there was a crow nearby who was like taunting this particular raven. So yeah, they made this noise. And then we got to see the Arctic fox, or foxes in this case, because there were about 4 in this enclosure. They were clearly very sleepy little babies because they were just cuddled up, nose tucked in their tails and everything in their enclosure and just chilling. Which, you know what, fair enough. It was a very cold day. Not that I don't actually know. But they were super cute. The little nuzzling was everything. But then we very quickly had to head back to the assembly point because it was time for the wolves. And oh my god, guys, I was starting to lose my mind. There was the pack of 5, mum, dad, and 3 sons, and they knew food was coming. They rushed over so quick the moment we started heading over, and it was truly the best day ever.
Odin, he's 9, and that's mum approaching us. Oh, yeah, there she is. And that's Nuna, she's also 9. Oh, hello, I know, it's exciting. We'll both get some today. So, just to protect their teeth. I mean, they've got quite strong teeth, but it's just a little bit nicer for them, and they should just take it off. Like, yeah. He's a little bit rougher, but there's nothing to worry about. As long as they get a piece of meat and you make sure to let go on the end of the tongue, so they'll take it through, they'll eat it nicely.
Hi, Nuna.
Anyway.
You get it? No.
Oh, it's because mum's come back.
Let's see.
Oh, hold on, let me try and get the other one. There we go. The last little bit for you. There you are. Guys, I fed wolves. Like, Emily, they very quickly kind of got bored when we didn't have food and left soon after. But I got to be close up, feed, and just generally be near wolves. The thing that I've been hyperfixating on for years, the things that I've written books about. And I got a certificate. And then I got to explore the rest of the place. I mean, honestly, this really was the best day. Wildwood Trust, they have so many amazing things here. They've even got like a European bison reintroduction thing going on and are working to reintroduce flora and fauna. I got to meet the bison. They were so huge. But everything that was going on here was amazing. And like I said, we got to explore the rest of the place. I saw wild boars that are used in conservation to help regenerate the flora and fauna of the UK and intended to kind of reintroduce them eventually. And it was just such a fascinating thing just to see them there and to hear about their impact and what they're doing. Same with the conic horses, which are conservation grazers. That is like a niche thing where they help reintroduce and create better ecological systems through their grazing of grounds, and the fact that the conic horse is like a historical one, or at least closely historical to the tarpan, which is a historical horse in Europe and Asia. And then you've got the wild cat that is slowly also kind of dying out. So they are also part of Wildwood's conservation system to try and boost up their numbers. I mean, there was just so many amazing things here. Of course, I ended up going back to the wolves. I mean, how could I not? They are the thing I was there for, even if I learnt so many other things. And seeing them again gave me so much inspiration that I couldn't help but start writing. I stood up on the sort of balcony thing for a good while and just watched them and wrote for a little while. My handwriting was atrocious, but I couldn't help myself but write. It was just a fantastic experience. I am so glad that I got to go. So glad that I spent money on these very cute plushies as well. That helps fund Wildwood as well. If you want to support conservation, definitely check out Wildwood Trust. It's been a couple of weeks since being at Wildwood Trust, and I still can't get over the fact that I got to meet wolves. You'll have seen from all the clips and footage that I clearly was having an amazing time. I even spent, I think it was about like 20 minutes or something, writing on the deck part that they had where you could basically overlook the wolves enclosure. And just the rest of the park in general as well, like getting to see the ravens, which obviously have connections to wolves. A lot of the time they'll they'll play with each other, they'll maybe sometimes help each other. Ravens have often been seen to kind of like signal to wolves when there's like carcasses nearby. When a wolf has made a kill, sometimes the wolves will let the ravens take part in kind of like picking at the carcass with them. So it was kind of cool seeing that they were there as well. The Arctic wolves, not the Arctic wolves, the Arctic foxes, the lynxes that they had. The fact that the trust itself is working towards rebuilding the European bison population, but they have reintroduced the European bison in Kent, where we were. So where the trust is, in the huge fields behind them, where you can go hiking and stuff, there is a herd of wild European bison. And the two that we'd met in the trust itself are descended from them. They're like connected familiarly with the bison that are out in the wild, and they will be eventually sent off, well, most likely if they're requested, essentially to other herds across the country. So most likely up in the Highlands, or I think in Ireland as well, but or somewhere in Europe, to continue to expand the genetic makeup of the herds and to fully reintroduce them in to the UK and Europe and so on, because their species was dwindling. They were nearly extinct, essentially, from how it sounds. Sorry, just to talk about bison when I'm talking about wolves, but that was just really fascinating to learn. And same thing with the lynx population. So Wildwood Trust in particular are actually working to also reintroduce the lynxes into the UK ecosystem again. It's been a long time since they've been in the wild. Same with wild cats, which we did see there as well. They are unfortunately also dwindling in population due to habitat disruption, but also the breeding with domesticated cats. But the lynxes in general, so they are working towards being part of the breeding program to reintroduce the lynxes into the UK's ecosystem. Probably won't be for a while, but they're working on the process, and that's just very, very exciting. But to the wolves, so obviously, yes, you saw I was writing with them. I have had so much inspiration since interacting with that pack. Now I know it was and like I knew going in it was going to be very different to a pack in the wild, mainly because these are not domesticated wolves, but in a sense domesticated wolves, because they are living in an enclosure. They do not have the huge levels of ground that they would have in the wild, which can be upwards of like 1,000 miles or something like that. This is obviously not remotely as big as that. And the guy himself actually mentioned a lot of the what's the word? I can't think of the word. Those captive wolves, their genetics can change, like their genetic makeup can change, so it will be impossible for them to be released into the wild. It doesn't always happen apparently, but with the pack that they have at Wildwood, they would not be able to be reintroduced into the wild because their genetic makeup is different. They would not be able to survive in the wild, essentially. But they're mostly there for educate the public to maybe one day see wolves reintroduced into the wild in the UK. Definitely not from a captive or domesticated pack unless the genetic makeup has not been affected. But just seeing them, and like Odin, just the fact that in general that the names of the wolves were named after a lot of Norse figures was phenomenal. Getting to see them up close and interact with them in that way, and just kind of see, even if it is different how it is, like they are more not aggressive, but they have more that dynamic of mum and dad are dominating towards the kids. It doesn't seem to kind of give that much of a family aspect. As we've all seen in the video, mum and dad were the ones who only ate when we fed them. One of the little ones, no, I say little ones, I think they're like 7. One of the sons came up to try and get some food and got snarled at, so he very quickly ran away. Whilst that can happen in the wild, it's not as common, usually just because there's more, not necessarily more access to food, just because obviously hunting. I think it's like 1 in 3 hunts are unsuccessful with packs, just because hunting is hard. But the dominant behaviour of the alpha male and female stuff is seen in captive wolf packs than it is seen in wild wolf packs. So the differences are there, but it was still just a really amazing experience. And just to know that like Wildwood in general are working towards, you know, reintroducing things into the ecosystem in the UK as a whole, with multiple different species that are no longer wild in the UK or are dwindling in the wild in the UK. And you know how much of a fan I am of wolves. My book series is there. I have my book series all about it, with my new one out now. And I've always been like a huge advocate for wolves as a whole. And unfortunately they need advocates. They are often being removed from the endangered species list, which means that they are losing their protections, which means they can be hunted as much as they want. They have a bad image given to them through media and also through just uninformed people, which leads to further hunting and the trophiness of getting the big bad wolf in quotes sort of thing when they successfully kill a wolf. The reality is wolves are very sensitive creatures. They are unlikely to ever attack a human. I think there are like... Okay, so I managed to look it up. So from 2002 to 2020, there are 489 wolf attacks across the world. 380 of those, 78%, were based on rabid or rabies-based attacks. 67 were considered predatory attacks, and 42 were provoked/defensive attacks. So essentially what I was saying of most wolf attacks are not like actual intended harm against humans. It's usually another factor. Oh, and there were only 26 fatal attacks in the wild between that 2002 and 2020, 14 of which were due to rabies, and just in general, all the other factors I said before. So none setting out to kill, essentially. Like, they're more likely to run away from humans than they are to attack a human. So yeah, they just get a bad reputation, unfortunately. And seeing that like Wildwood Trust are kind of working towards kind of like removing the stigma by kind of giving the chance for people to adopt a wolf, so to support the trust and all the good they are doing with the other species and reintroduction, but also to kind of change the way in which people think about wolves, by allowing this chance to be a little bit more up and close with them. It's just a hugely important thing. And as, like I said, someone who really cares about wolves and, you know, their protection, it was a fantastic experience. Has done a lot for my creativity. I have nearly finished the Secret project since being there with the wolves. And it's just a fantastic birthday present. Huge love and admiration and adoration for my girlfriend for this present. And I'm going to link all the stuff for Wildwood in the description below. Highly recommend checking them out. They also have a bear experience as well, where you can feed a bear. But all the bison stuff that they're doing there, they're also reintroducing natural trees into the UK, because we've lost quite a lot of, you know, UK original flora and fauna, that's the term. So they are doing a lot of amazing stuff. So if you can support them, highly recommend doing so. It was a great time. And yeah, I got to feed wolves, and it helped me come close to finishing a story about them. Oh yeah, Out of the Wild is out now if you want to complete your Into the Wild collection. See you next time.